Welcome to Eden Live, where I am reading all of Eden by FREI live on Facebook and on YouTube, with the recorded clips making their way onto Instagram, IGTV. Welcome back, I should say. There was a short break. I took a short break of about 2 weeks, in fact, because I was away. I was on holiday. I had a brief holiday. This is a coincidence that this next chapter actually also starts with having me away. That was completely not planned. We're still in Encounters. We're still in volume 9. We haven't actually got to the end of this yet, but we're nearly at the end of this volume before we then move on to something completely different, which is the Bournemouth and Boscombe trilogy. But we're still in Encounters, and there are 2 short chapters and 2 short literary interludes left. And this short chapter is called Trivia. Trivia. The world, I realise with a pang of melancholy and nostalgia, has become a slightly more prosaic, pragmatic, perfunctory place while I was away. I was away in Brazil for 2 months, and stories entirely of their own kind and wonder were lived and experienced there, which to regale you with is for another place and another time, for certain. And since I had set off to Sao Paulo from Zurich, I flew back to Zurich for a few more days in Switzerland with my family before taking a plane home to London, only to find, on that particular flight, that the world had in these few weeks been impoverished and made just that bit more mundane. I knew this was going to happen. It still came as a shock to the system. A trivial, first world problem kind of shock, no doubt, but still, British Airways had ditched the free drinks. The drinks were never really free. They were included and obviously somehow accounted for in the airfare, and now sent its little trolley down the aisle, charging you for every last peanut of it. In theory, that is. In practice, this newly utilitarian procedure, which now involved taking card payments from everybody for every coffee and every water, let alone every little bottle of wine, every can of beer and every snack, took so long that by the time they got to me in row 21, the announcement came through that we now needed to fold up our tables and put our seats in the upright position because we were just about to touch down in Heathrow. There may well be a commercial argument for not including drinks on a short-haul route that other providers offer at rock-bottom prices, and the free snacks had long dwindled to such minuscule sampler sachets of some desultory crackers or crisps that in fact the idea of suddenly now being able to choose from a whole range of sandwiches, wraps and porridges sounded like a genuine improvement. In theory, once again, that is. In practice, any hope of obtaining any actual food was foiled by the reality that by the time they got to me in row 21, they were not only out of time, but they had sold out of everything edible on their trolley. And so, even if there had been enough of a flight left to eat something, which there wasn't, there was nothing now on offer to buy. But whether any of this makes sense commercially, or simply reflects the half reality of a fiercely competitive market, racing itself to the unforgiving bottom of absolute discomfort in a fight for dubiously worthwhile survival amidst the ruthless cannibalism of a no frills, no standards, no pleasure operators of no frills, no standards, no pleasure operators run by crude Irishmen. What pains the heart and saddens the soul is the reality of the poetry of flying, such as it barely still was, and had, even at this most basic level, been cultivated still a little at least by the A, has now been wiped out by brute rationality. I so fondly remember a flight to Nice not that long ago, where I found myself sitting next to an improbably well-spoken and strikingly beautiful woman who was also on her way to the film festival in Cannes, and who, witnessing the order of Bloody Mary and realising that that was just part of the service provided by British Airways, decided with enthusiasm that that was exactly what she wanted too. We naturally got talking, and roughly a quarter into our conversation, we were nearly out of Mary's. This looming crisis was noted by the attentive cabin crew, who immediately offered us another. Halfway through our conversation, we obviously needed a third one, which, in truth, we this time had to ask for, but which was served with unflinching, even indulgent patience and a smile by our delightful flight attendant. And whether or not, for the last quarter of our conversation, we requested and were given our fourth Bloody Mary, I can't now with certainty recall, mostly because we were really quite jolly by then in the most agreeable way, and it was, after all, still mid-morning. But I certainly like to think so. And the beauty of it, that was all there ever was to it. We never kept in touch, we never met up, and although she was bound to have told me, I've no idea what she was doing in Cannes. We didn't even exchange details. Once, on another flight back from Nice to London, I actually ended up involved in some potentially useful networking. On this occasion, though, no purpose whatever was served. We just had ourselves a wonderful flight and positioned ourselves in a perfect frame of mind for the festival, thanks to BA. Now, when you fly with BA to Nice to attend the film festival in Cannes, it will feel just like any other airline and not much different to a National Express coach or an East Coast Line train to Leeds. You can buy yourself a vodka and a tomato juice, of course, and if you're extremely lucky, they may even find you a slice of lemon. They won't have the Worcester sauce for you though, and although it will taste bland, but still cost you nearly as much as a legendary Bloody Mary at the Century Club, it is possible just that economically you actually fare better with one or two like this that you pay for than you would if that potential cost had been factored into the price of your ticket. And true, if you went for 3 or 4 drinks with mixers, as we did, it's likely that a fellow passenger who was just drinking water was subsidizing you in those days. Yet, isn't that the kind of thing that makes life worth living? That sometimes you find yourself in a situation where, in all likelihood, you're indirectly buying a drink for someone you've never met, and other times you become the recipient, quite unexpectedly, of such similar munificence, because in a civilized society, having a Bloody Mary is considered par for the course on an aeroplane. And on that rare and exquisite occasion when you sit next to a person so articulate and so beautiful that this one Bloody Mary just turns into 4, well, then so be it. That way, surely, lies the generosity of a gesture. That way, surely, lies the generosity of gesture that makes it all bearable. And the moment surely will come, I dare say it has most certainly occurred many times before, when someone on a plane who paid just the same as I did has something to celebrate and gets bumped up and offered a glass of champagne, or when somebody somewhere in some other context is inadvertently, involuntarily, yet graciously still, my guest. I welcome them to it and I wish them well. And I wish BA would rethink their mean-spirited approach, and not just for my sake or the sake of my fellow passengers. I recently had a long conversation with a man who works as cabin crew for BA. And oh, how unhappy he did sound about the state of affairs, about the cost-cutting culture, about the dwindling levels of service he's able, even encouraged, to provide, about the erosion of anything resembling an ethos, about the way in which being BA, just as flying BA, feels no longer special but has become pedestrian, mercenary, banal. And there, precisely, lies the beginning of the end of civilization, when what matters is no longer the sophistication of your experience, the excellence of who you are and what you stand for, and the pride and joy you take and make from and through what you do, but purely the profit and nothing else. What a poor world we live in, where only the profit matters and nothing else. It may only be on the surface about a complimentary Bloody Mary, on reflection, turns out to be far from trivial, after all. It has occurred to me since I wrote this, it's worth bearing in mind that I wrote this just about 5 years ago, I think. The project is, I think, in its 6th year, because it was first published as a blog, then in paperback and as ebooks, and now I'm recording this. And it's occurred to me that probably you wouldn't be able to buy a peanut on an aeroplane anymore, because they'd be too afraid of somebody having an allergic reaction to this. But you get the meaning, get the gist. And it used to be the case, of course, that you eat peanuts with your Bloody Mary on aeroplanes. Be that as it may, this was the pre-penultimate entry in encounters, so real-life encounters that actually happened. None of this is made up, I hope you realize. And then we come to, after encounters, we come to volume 10, which is the Bournemouth and Boscombe trilogy. I wasn't going to say the Boscombe and Bournemouth trilogy, but I think the way it needs to be said is the Bournemouth and Boscombe trilogy, which is also its actual title. So until then, I hope, well, until next time when we continue with the pre-penultimate entry in Encounters, I hope you're having a good week and are able to enjoy the summer a bit if you're in the summer hemisphere of the globe. And I look forward to seeing you again. And until then, take good care and love and let love, and see you very soon.